everybody. This is Dr. David Jockers, and today I'm talking about the top 5 fat-burning errors, mistakes people are making every single day that ruin their ability to burn fat and have a healthy metabolism. And so when we look at this, the number one mistake that I see is focusing on calories and not hormones. So if you're out there and you're constantly counting calories, that's really not the best way to improve your metabolism. Metabolism's all about the hormones that your body is secreting. It's really governed by hormones. And in the next slide, I'm going to go over that. Number 2 is not consuming enough micronutrients. You need micronutrients in order to produce cellular energy. And so if you're not taking in enough micronutrients because you focus so much on calories that you've literally forgotten about the micronutrients, you are not going to get the metabolic surge that you need to burn fat, to produce cellular energy, to really feel great and look great. Number 3 is consuming too many anti-nutrients. There's a lot of health foods out there, and unhealthy foods, of course, as well, that have anti-nutrients. So they are actually things that deplete our nutrient stores. And so we've got to make sure we limit the amount of anti-nutrients and consume maximum amounts of micronutrients. Also, confusing thirst for hunger. This is extremely common. In fact, most people are doing this throughout the day. See, when we eat, we get a natural rise in dopamine. It makes us feel good when we eat. We don't get quite that rise when we drink water and drink fluids. And because food is so prevalent, we can literally be eating all day long, munching on stuff all day long. And because that food is so prevalent, it's just so easy to get. And we oftentimes really don't hydrate well, but we continually go back for food. And when we do that, we end up secreting a lot of fat storing hormones and suppressing the key fat burning hormones we need for a healthy metabolism. And of course, mistake number 5 kind of goes along with mistake number 4 there. If we're confusing thirst for hunger, we're going to end up eating just too often throughout the day. And so we can be really healthy and eat 1 to 2 times a day. And so we shouldn't be eating 4, 5, 6 meals a day, maybe 3, especially if you're new to fasting and ketosis and some of the topics I talk about. I'm okay with you doing 3 meals, but if you're doing 4, 5, 6 meals a day and you're an adult, you're not a pregnant woman, if you're not pregnant and you're doing that, that's really bad for your metabolism. I don't recommend it. So 5 fat burning hormones, okay? Right here, if we look at this, we've got adiponectin released by the fat cells and leptin that's released by the fat cells. So this is basically the way the fat cells themselves tell the brain that they've had enough and we're ready to start burning fat. So these 2 hormones, adiponectin and leptin. Now we've got other hormones like insulin, which comes from the pancreas, that works to lower blood sugar and it stimulates fat storage. So when sugar goes up, insulin's going to come out. And it is a fat storage hormone. Also, at the same time, you have another hormone called ghrelin, which helps stimulate fat storage. And then cortisol, your stress. So when you're under a lot of stress, it's going to increase your blood sugar, which then is going to drive up insulin. Cortisol also increases cravings. So we've got to get these hormones balanced and under control. And so one of the key hormones, it's really the endocrine master hormone in our body is insulin. When insulin comes up, you are going to store fat. It's going to keep your body storing fat. For some individuals, particularly the ectomorphs with real thin shoulders, you're not going to be able to build lean body tissue effectively if you have chronically high insulin. We develop this level of insulin resistance. It's going to throw off our other hormones, particularly our sex hormones. It's going to increase inflammatory gene pathways. It's going to cause abnormalities in our neurotransmitters. It's going to cause a terrible triad of high LDL, low HDL, and high triglycerides. It's going to increase blood pressure and just the overall tension in our blood vessels. Our liver detoxification pathways go down. So we've got to really control insulin. That's so important for our metabolism. We really do this best with a low carb, high fat, healthy diet. And so we've also got to really make sure we're getting our micronutrients into our body. And so we know macronutrients are going to be things like your fat, your carbohydrates, your protein, and those are important. Again, I'm a fan of a low carb, high fat, high healthy fat, moderate protein, high fiber sort of a nutrition plan. and a high micronutrient nutrition plan. We're getting a lot of vitamins, a lot of minerals, a lot of phytonutrient antioxidants. Very, very important. And so the top 12 trace mineral rich foods that are also double by having a lot of polyphenolic antioxidants and different basically micronutrients in them. They're rich in micronutrients. They're going to be sea vegetables. Okay, very rich in iodine, all your B vitamins. So a lot of really good stuff. Chlorophyll that's in the sea vegetables. Wild caught fish. So wild caught sockeye salmon, for example, is amazing. Sardines are really, really good. So good, high quality wild caught fish. Fermented foods, sauerkraut, kimchi, pickles, really rich in trace minerals. And I really think that most people are trace mineral deficient. Number one, because we've eaten a lot of foods that are higher in sugar and carbohydrates, which deplete our trace minerals. And number two is because ultimately, again, we're really not eating these kind of trace mineral rich foods on a regular basis. We're also under a lot of stress, and stress depletes your mineral reserves. So we've got to make sure we're getting them. Fermented foods are one of the best sources. Dark green leafy vegetables, avocados, incredible source of trace mineral rich foods, pasture raised eggs, pink salt, so like Himalayan sea salt, bone broth, or vegetable broths. So if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, doing vegetable broths, so you can actually cook up vegetables, and it kind of makes this, basically this vegetable medley, right? That's there, and the essence of the vegetables comes out in the broth, and the broth is so good for the body and so rich in trace minerals. Grass-fed butter or ghee, and grass-fed meats. So these are things that should be in your diet. You should be eating at least 8 of these right here on a daily basis. So there's 12 of them there. Your goal should be getting 8 of these into your diet every single day that you're eating, unless you're fasting, of course. Every day, you should get 8 of these in your diet every single day. I think that's very reasonable for every one of us to do. That's going to really help your metabolism. Now, the 9 foods you should never eat, we want to stay away from table salt, vegetable oils. It's going to be like corn oil, soybean oil, safflower, cottonseed. These kind of oils, really bad for the body. We want to stay away from soy proteins and unfermented soy products. We could do something like a non-GMO soy lecithin if it's in a supplement. I'm okay with that. And like a fermented soy, if you wanted to, like a natto or a tempeh, as long as it's organic, that's okay, because non-organic soy is typically genetically modified. We want to avoid that. Processed meat, so like highly processed, conventionally raised meat, we want to avoid that. Microwaved popcorn, really toxic and bad for us. As much as possible, we want to go with organic vegetables, particularly foods or vegetables that are in the dirty dozen. So anything you're going to eat the outer skin of, like blueberries, like spinach, something along those lines. If we're going to eat the outer skin, cucumbers, then we should definitely make sure that we're going organic with it. If it's something like an avocado, okay, not as important to go organic because you're going to peel that outer layer, so not as important. Stay away from artificial sweeteners. That's going to be Splenda, aspartame, so NutraSweet. That would be a brand there of aspartame. So we want to avoid those. Okay, those are really toxic. Acetylfultane potassium is another one. Make sure you're avoiding that. Monosodium glutamate, got to be avoiding that. Margarine, which is a toxic hydrogenated oil, really bad for the metabolism. And canned tomatoes are going to be really high in BPA, and the acidity of the tomato is going to pull out, it's going to leach out aluminum from the can as well. So really toxic substances that are going to mess up your metabolism. That's why I don't recommend it. Okay, now dietary anti-nutrients to limit. So these are anti-nutrients, especially if you have gut issues, that you definitely need to be aware of. I mean, all of us need to limit sugar. Sugar is going to deplete. It's going to take a lot more from our body when we consume sugar than it puts back in. So got to take sugar out. High net carb foods. So anything that has a lot of high net carbs, even a lot of fruit that has a high amount of sugar in it, we want to avoid that. Net carbs means total carbs minus fiber. So we want to minimize those, because again, the higher our blood sugar rises, the more nutrients our body loses. So in order to buffer that, we've got to utilize a lot of magnesium, B vitamins, antioxidants, because it's going to produce a lot of oxidative stress. So the more we shift into a glycolysis sugar burning mode, the more nutrients our body uses up. So we want to reduce our net carb foods. Herbicides and pesticides, of course, chemical toxins, we want to avoid those, hormones, antibiotics. That's why it's so important to avoid conventionally raised animal products. Heavy metals, obviously we want to avoid that. So where's that going to be? A lot of fish. So we only want wild caught, kind of pristine fish, things that are lower on the food chain. That's going to be better. Heavy metals are also found in processed foods, so we avoid those. Now, phytates, where are phytates found? They're going to be found in things like different grains like rice as well as beans. So we want to avoid these because they actually will pull out major minerals like zinc and iron and copper out of our system. Lectins can cause gut stress on our body. So again, we find these in legumes as well as grains and oftentimes nuts too. And same thing with oxalates. Oxalates are little crystals that can cause a lot of stress in our gut, a lot of stress in our kidneys, our brain. You may have heard of like calcium oxalate stones from kidney stones. And so I have a whole list in the article that accompanies this video on high oxalate foods, but the major ones to remember are going to be particularly your nuts and seeds, as well as your grains, legumes. These are higher in oxalates, so we definitely want to avoid those. Dark chocolate as well. So if we don't avoid them altogether, we at least want to reduce them or consume them in forms that they have less oxalic acid in them, such as soaked and sprouted. And that will also help pull out enzyme inhibitors, which are in a lot of these foods as well. So these are good things to limit. And this is why in my food guide pyramid, I don't have nuts and seeds at the bottom. I have it near the top, eating them more in moderation. Now, cruciferous veggies, believe it or not, even like eating raw broccoli can be really tough on your system. I don't recommend it. So I recommend with cruciferous vegetables that you steam them. Steaming those cruciferous vegetables will really not hurt any of the nutrient quality, but at the same time, it will basically soften them up, reduce that hard outer cellulose, and make them easier for your digestive system. So I'm a huge fan of doing that. You can also ferment a lot of these, and you can get a lot of good improvements in your digestion with that too. I mean, take a look at something like sauerkraut, for example. Very easy on the digestive system, easy for your body to break down and metabolize. So steaming these cruciferous vegetables can be really helpful. And then drinking a lot of water throughout the day. So water is going to really hydrate your body. It's going to help flush out toxins. It's going to help with muscle contractions, with brain energy. It's going to help sweep toxins out of your gut. So making sure you're really well hydrated is extremely important for your metabolism. It's going to help you burn fat for fuel. It's going to help you build lean body tissue and perform at your best. So I recommend not drinking with meals, or at least if you are drinking the minimal amount, like 4 ounces or less, just enough to take some supplements, but drinking a lot away from meals. So ideally about 30 minutes to an hour after your meal, drinking a lot up until about maybe 15 to 30 minutes before your meal. Okay, so you're hydrating well away from meals, and that's going to help reduce hunger, reduce cravings, help your brain function better, help you burn fat, and it's going to save off hunger. So you're not going to need to eat as much. And fasting is a very key strategy. In general, I'm a huge fan of a ketogenic, low carb, high fat diet that I talked about before. The reason why is our insulin levels. Remember, insulin is your fat storage hormone. So when you are on a higher fat ketogenic style diet, your insulin levels go down, your body starts breaking down stored body fat, and also the fat that we're taking in our diet starts creating these ketones, which produce robust metabolic fuel. They produce significantly less free radicals and promote less oxidative stress and inflammation. So a lot of power in doing a ketogenic style diet. One thing that goes really well with that is intermittent fasting, but it's hard to do intermittent fasting if you're not hydrating well. So intermittent fasting would be like eating your meals in an 8-hour eating window. So if you were to eat your first meal at 10 a.m. And your last meal at 5 p.m., for example, that would be a great intermittent fasting strategy to apply. Okay. If you need to eat 3 meals, you might do like 10 a.m., 2 p.m., and 5 p.m., for example, right? And that would be a fantastic intermittent fasting strategy. That way, you've got that time between, let's say you finish your last meal at 6, between 6 and 10 a.m. the next day to really ramp up your growth hormone levels, which helps your body burn fat for fuel, helps you build lean body tissue, helps support your immune system, helps with cellular repair and regeneration. You stimulate some autophagy, where your body breaks down old, decaying organelles within cells and rebuilds them. It helps improve insulin sensitivity, downregulates inflammation, takes stress off your gut. So really, really great strategy. That's a 16-8. Okay. There are other things you could do, like a 1 meal a day. So where you just eat all your food for the day in a 1 hour time period. Really powerful for reducing inflammation, improving hormone sensitivity. You get a massive release of growth hormone, really good for fat burning. So lots of great strategies that you can apply with this that can help with cellular repair and regeneration and fat burning. And for one helpful supplement, because I know a lot of these videos, a lot of you guys ask questions about what's a helpful supplement to support what I'm talking about, I would recommend the Keto Edge, which has exogenous ketones in it. And exogenous ketones are going to teach your body. So they kind of educate your body on using ketones for fuel and stimulating fat burning mechanisms. So the better you get at burning ketones for energy, the more your body's going to you want to use them for energy, and it's going to be better at producing them. So it's got the ketones in there. It's also got MCTs for a prolonged ketone rise in your system. It's got adaptogenic mushrooms in there, cordyceps, reishi, whole bunch of great compounds in there to support your immune system, stimulate fat burning, and help your body balance out stress. So definitely a great product to check out. Be sure to check out the article that accompanies this video for more information on it. If you have questions or comments, be sure to put them in. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, be sure to do that as well. I'll see you guys on a future training. Be blessed, everybody. Bye-bye.